welcome back in. Today we're discussing our Week 8 must-add defenses and kickers for this week. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with defenses. We're going to start off with the Chargers going up against the Saints this week. They're currently rostered just under 40% of leagues. The Chargers will be welcoming in a Saints to town this week that is fresh off their 33-10 loss to the Broncos on Thursday Night Football. The Chargers defense is currently 7th in fantasy points per game. While the Chargers have the 3rd lowest pressure rate in the league, the Saints offense has been pressured on 23.6% of dropbacks, 10th highest rate in the league. Where the Chargers have shined is their ability to turn over opposing offenses, as they have created a turnover on 16.4% of offensive drives, which is the 7th highest rate in the league. Whether it's Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener, this sets up as one of the best streaming defenses of the week. Let's keep moving. Let's move over to the Chiefs. They're only rostered in 32% of leagues. They get the Raiders this week. Now, some of this makes sense. Obviously, they were going against the 49ers this week, and before that, they were on their bye. While the Chiefs haven't registered a ton of sacks this season, they do lead the league in pressure rate. They are getting a pressure on 32.6% of dropbacks, which is just ahead of the Vikings and the Seahawks. The Raiders have allowed the 5th most sacks so far this season, making the Chiefs one of the better streaming options of the week. Keep it moving here. Let's move over to the Green Bay Packers. They're rostered in 41% of leagues versus the Jaguars this week. The Packers defense has been on a tear this season, as they are now the DST3 at averaging 10.4 fantasy points per game. They rank 6th in sacks, 3rd in INTs, and 1st in fumble recoveries. Their 24.5% pressure rate is also top 12. This week, they travel to Jacksonville to take on a Jags offense that has yielded the 8th most sacks. And lastly, we're going to hit on the New York Giants, who are only rostered in 6% of leagues. The Giants defense, especially their pass rush, has been very good this season. Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence have been an absolute menace, producing 31 sacks through 7 games. This week, the Giants head to Pittsburgh to take on a Steelers offense that has a lot of pressure on 22% of dropbacks, which is the 12th highest rate in the league. Now, let's move over to kickers. At first, I just want to say this really quickly. I'm not going to have him on here, but I do want to mention it. If Austin Seibert is still available, he needs to be rostered. He scored another 17 fantasy points this week. He is now tied as the number 1 kicker overall in the season and rostered at about 55% of leagues. So if he's sitting out there, he's been on this list for about 4 or 5 weeks in a row. If he's somehow sitting out there, he's the best kicker in the league right now. He needs to be rostered in all leagues. Just wanted to mention him right off the top, but let's keep it moving. Will Lutz is who I want to hit on first. 6% versus the Panthers. Will Lutz had himself a game on Thursday night against the Saints. He converted all 4 of his field goals plus all 3 PATs for 18 fantasy points. He has now scored 11 or more fantasy points in 4 of his 7 games this year. He's kicked 9 field goals of 40-plus yards, and now with the Broncos offense looking a little better, Lutz has become a very reliable source of fantasy production. This week, the Broncos take on a Panthers in Mile High, making him one of the best streaming options of the week. Next up, he was on this list last week. We're going to hit on him again, and that is Will Reichert, only rostered in 10% of leagues. They play on Thursday night against the Rams. Reichert continues to be one of the best kickers on the season. Last week against the Lions, Reichert converted all 3 field goals, 2 40-plus yard field goals, and another 50-yarder. He also converted both of his PATs. He's now scored 11 or more fantasy points in 4 of their last 5 games. The Vikings have a quick turnaround with Thursday night matchup against the Rams on tap. But if Reichert is sitting out there and you missed out on Austin Seibert, Will Reichert's the other guy that I really want to get my hands on. This Vikings offense has been pretty solid all season, and this is a team that ranks top 10 in third down conversion. Will Reichert has been absolutely solid all year. Let's keep it moving. We're going to hit on Jason Myers, rostered 21% of leagues against the Bills. The Bills versus Seahawks game has the highest total on the slate for week 8, which is 49.5. And they also rank top 10, highest implied team total of 21.5. Myers enters week 8 as the kicker 9. Despite converting just under 80% of his field goals, he does rank 4th in PATs, but also has connected on 6 of 9 field goals with 40-plus yards. This game has a solid game environment, which makes Jason Myers a pretty easy streaming option this week. And then lastly, Brandon McManus, only rostered 1% of leagues. They face the Jaguars this week. The Packers parted ways with Narveson this week as they brought in veteran kicker Brandon McManus. We know he has a big leg. However, he is very inconsistent at times, as he made 81% of his field goals last season for the Jags. This week, the Packers head to Jacksonville to take on a terrible Jags defense. This should be a spot where a Packers offense could easily move the ball and put up big points. So I think Brandon McManus is the other one. A couple other options you could possibly look at this week if none of these guys are available. I do think Cairo Santos at a matchup against the Commanders. I do expect Jaden Daniels to play this week. So that game also sets up as a pretty nice total as well. So I do think Cairo Santos is another option you could look at. So that being said, let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions, and we'll be sure to help you out and get you ready for week 8. We'll see you on the next one.